Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Daily Brief. Woohoo! Party! It's Monday morning, middle of the summer. Looks like we're live on YouTube. So I'm not quite sure why, but it looks like, and this is probably a function of YouTube is getting rid of these on-hair hangouts at the end of the month. And it looks like they've killed our sort of massive group experience where we used to have like 25 people be able to come into these calls. So my apologies. It's going to be sort of a mad dash to get in for the few seats that are remaining. Of course, we need all the people that are on the show and that are driving the bus to be in here. So there's very limited seats, but I do see people over there on the YouTube page. Hi, Daniel. Great to see you. I hope things are going well in Ventura and you guys made it through the earthquakes and all that in one piece. And hello, Grim. And if I'm not mistaken, it looks like Grim banged out another big win this morning. This guy's just such a kick-ass fucking trader and instructor. Got to tell you, all you level oneers, you are so fortunate to have Grim as your instructor. And, you know, I got to say, like on Sunday, I like to just sit in the level one class and just sort of listen out of the corner of my ear. And just fantastic work. And this past week was a really, really tough week for the level oneers. They had to learn volume impetus, which is a bit of a challenge for new people, and he handled it like a rock star. So obviously fate is rewarding you there, Grim. Nice trade on the overstock. And if I'm not mistaken, that thing just looks like a monster. I'm going to be tested here on my oil stock, which is kind of weird because we had the little oil, the oil itself, actually, the algo spat up a buy signal over the weekend. So we'll see how that goes. But just wanted to quickly throw on that overstock. Geez. And I put out a tweet this morning just saying, you know, one of my biggest jobs is just simply don't get in the way of winners. Just let the winners run. Siord, I tried to update, refresh the chat room, and it's just frozen here. I don't know. Is your chat room working?
Mine's still working.
Yeah, so I just tried to refresh it, and it's just sitting here frozen like this. So just FYI, who knows what's going on there. Anyway, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the Frivolity. Great to see we've got lots of keen-eyed participants this morning. We've got the mayor driving the bus, so that's good. Oh, it looks like it's loading now, so that's good. Phew. Mr. Mayor, how you doing this morning?
Hey, Brian, what's up? I'm pretty good. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. It is Monday, and always like to get sort of an update for the community on how the site development is going. So we have Siord on the call this morning to give us a little report of how things are going on his end as TRI's lead developer. How are you doing this morning, Siord?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
Good, good. We were all showing everybody who was able to sneak into the Hangout before we started recording pictures of Dutch windmills and getting Siord ready to climb local mountains here in Vancouver at the end of the month. Actually, just an FYI on that note, probably, you know, if you are planning on coming to Vancouver, I'll probably put out an email later on today. We do need to go and reserve your seat on the fireworks cruise dinner event. I'll send that link out to in the email today, but we probably better do that sooner rather than later. They told me that you don't want to leave it to the last 2 weeks or seats might be gone. So just everybody be aware of that. And as well, we've been debating about whether we should do clothing in sort of our little gift bags. Hey, Chris, can't wait to see you. Chris was able to hook up with a local site member, and I think they were able to get their camper van, him and Sen, so that should be really cool. I'd like to see them rocking BC and Alberta in a big RV. But just to finish that thought just a moment ago, I think I'm going to send out an email this afternoon asking for people's sizes, so that when we do order these garb, we make sure that we have a correct size for you. So just watch out those emails, both the fireworks cruise dinner and the shirt sizing email will be going out later on today, and we need a response on that fairly quickly. So just an FYI on all that. All right, so where should we begin today's frivolity? Should we start with a site report from you, Sjord?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, and then that way you can head off to dinner. So you've got the ball. I think the mayor has you screen sharing.
Okay.
Not totally positive, but I can always help present to everybody. All right, so Mr. Sjord, you got the ball. I'll go on mute. Tell us what you're up to these days.
Okay, so let me quickly go through what I've been doing for the past week. And these are a lot of smaller issues. We've made some UI improvements in the members dashboard, but in the overall member section, things like spacing and buttons and all that. We did some work on our servers. We have updated the kernel version. We have harnessed some of the settings that we have so that we don't provide X-powered headers, and we changed some mail headers and all that. Some marketing related changes. Some security improvements, like trial members. I'm sorry, but you can't postpone for 72 hours anymore. We implemented Google reCAPTCHA on the contact forms. Some dashboard changes, including ongoing ones. So I'm now sharing my dashboard, and what we added were 2 widgets, and I just deployed this today. So it's not a finished product yet, but you can now see your recent journal entries as a widget. And you will be able to see the recent daily briefs, and you can see that the spacing here is still not as it should be, but that's a work in progress there. We've been doing some changes on the library that isn't really visible. Oh, and then a cool change on the journaling. So I'm still getting lots of feedback on the journal functionality, so that's really cool. The journal itself now has auto-clickable links, but also if you open a journal entry, for example, this one, and you have a trading view chart in there, it will automatically open it. And again, this layout, I'm not very happy with it, yes, but you can now browse to the previous and the next entry with these buttons on the side. And some more work to be done on that, but that should make it easier to browse your journal. And also the charts are clickable, so then they take you to the full image if the image is bigger, which works on mobile as well. But that's all a work in progress as well. And I've created with another developer plan going forward to make the PayPal and coin payments messages that we receive from their servers replayable. And what that basically means is that at the moment when a message comes in, the server tries to handle it a few times, but then if it doesn't work, it drops the message. And in a new situation, we will be able to replay failed messages. So in case of any errors, we can automatically replay them, or we can manually replay those messages. So that's basically what the week was like. This week, I want to make sure that the UI improves a bit, like, for example, this page, that it looks a bit better. And I continue on the notifications again. So we want to get those 30 EMA and 30 SMA week crosses notifications going. And we have a meeting tomorrow again about the algo course. We're making progress in that. So tomorrow we have a new meeting to see what the status is. And then I hope we can finish testing this week and launch it either this week or next week. So that's it for the site update.
Okay, thank you, sir. I'm sitting here just playing with the new tools as we speak.
Okay, cool. And if anyone wants to see my windmill, I can still show it while I'm screen sharing.
All right, go for it.
So here is the windmill, guys. For the people who don't believe when I say that I have an actual windmill in my garden, it actually is a windmill in my garden.
I'm surprised you don't have a windmill Lego set. That actually surprises me.
They have, yeah.
But that's kind of boring for you. That'd be like.
You can beat the real deal looking outside. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Awesome, dude. All right,
Okay.
thank you for that report. I appreciate it. And long and short of it here is this is technically our developer cycle, and as you can see, I'm just sort of playing with all these tools. Ideally, we want to build this out so that this is just an absolutely number one. It's a usable product for you, but number two, we'd like to get you to the point where things like trade journals and stuff like that, this becomes sort of like an integral part of your day. But anyway, I'll play with that later on. Totally awesome. Thank you, sir. Totally appreciate that. Okay, a couple sort of admin-y kind of things I wanted to just talk about with the market. Anybody who bought the Voltaic Resources, VLT, on Vancouver, was a CanSlim stock. Just so you're aware, they went and changed their name, which often happens with a lot of these reorganizations. And they're now called ALLI. I've got my order to sell half on a double sitting up here in the 30, low 30 area. We bought it at the end of last year in the 16-cent area. So, I mean, the trade's working fine. I loaded up my screen this morning, and you hate when you load up your screen and you just see nothing there. So anybody who is in that VLT, just be aware they just did a name change. No big deal. And it's just working away. Let's see. What else should we talk about here this morning? I put out tweets. I had that on the screen this morning. Half of our job as traders is just to try and get those sort of free positions and just let the positions run. So I was really pleased to see that Overstock made another new high. And you could make an argument that this is sort of a proxy on crypto itself. A big part of the reason why it's running is they're thinking about monetizing their crypto assets. So on balance, that should be a good vote for crypto. Just sort of dovetailing that, yesterday when we were doing the broiler chicken show and all that, we talked a little bit. Where's the best chart? Here we are. We talked a little bit about these big coils coming in here on Bitcoin, and also a nice coil on Ethereum. And I also noticed this morning, and I tweeted this out, I was actually pleased to see, I was worried that for a while there, something just wasn't right about the spreads. They were emming out. This is an excellent sort of sentiment indicator. We had, of course, Alex's favorite indicator, the Phoenix premium discount, start to do some really wonky things. So there was lots of warning signs that there was problems. I did notice when I woke up this morning, I was quite pleased to see, not so much on Litecoin, but nonetheless, it is trying to turn. But we have a pretty nice looking turn in 1, 2, 3 tags of this trend line. Nice market structure there, trying to break out on Bitcoin spreads. And then 1, 2, not so much 3. Maybe this is 3 for ETH. But you can see the nice little W's trying to come in here, and the market picking up a bit here. So spread-wise, sentiment-wise, things are looking a little bit more optimistic, a little more positive there. I was a little bummed, but you just live by the sword, die by the sword, to see that we really haven't gotten algo Uber signals out of Bitcoin here this morning. I was worried that, oh man, we've missed the boat. This thing's going to take off. Oh, crap, no algo signals. But it is what it is. Did notice that we jumped up first thing this morning. This was actually, I guess you could argue, through the London kill zone. It's interesting to see. I don't know whether you guys saw, but the poop hit the fan in London this morning. Anybody who was working for Deutsche Bank just politely got told to get the hell out. So you wonder whether Bitcoin caught a bit of a bid through that event. Pretty sort of earth-shocking, earth-rattling for all the Europeans. But I have to say, this is actually not a bad commentary on TRI site people, because for a long time, a lot of TRI site people were very negative on Deutsche Bank. And I wonder now whether, because Lehman Brothers back in the last cycle, and I don't even know, I don't know whether any of you guys actually were in the market through Lehman Brothers, but it basically went almost exactly the same way. A whole bunch of people got basically laid off, and it was a death spiral right into the fall. So I wonder whether this turns into sort of our current cycle's Lehman Brothers. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. These guys have been on their knees for quite a while. And I did see people actually, posting Deutsche Bank charts and stuff, saying this thing just looks like an absolute train wreck. Let's see if I can find that. Where did I put that? Of course, when you want to try and find something, you can't just off the top of your head. Anyway, if anybody has a Deutsche Bank symbol just off the top of their head, I wouldn't mind you giving it to me so I can just show these good people the train wreck. But, long and short of it here, we probably just want to avoid this like the plague while this is playing itself out. So interesting point there in that Bitcoin, these are 4-hour charts, keep in mind. Bitcoin jumped up right up against the old breakout level there, and now is actually painting an inside bar here on the 4 hours. So it doesn't look like it. It looks like to me the New York boys opened up and went, whoa, 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 slow down, slow down, slow down. I suppose had you taken this bot, if we just look at the OKCoin levels, you can see there is the bot level, move stop to break even. Hasn't had move stop to trailing level yet. So I think if this thing does crap out and we trade back down to these levels, you're probably best just to hop off at scratch, just sort of an FYI there. But the thing that I guess the market that I got most excited about over the weekend and broiler chicken shows and all that kind of stuff was the Ethereum chart tried to break out on volume here. Not overly impressive volume, but nonetheless, a breakout nonetheless. Nice breakout on the coil of the MACD, but you have to be a little bit careful here. Sometimes this thing can break out like this and then roll over hard here. So just be cognizant that that is there. We talked a little bit about these algo setups firing. Thank you, Kavarkinator, for pointing that out. It's just DB. Is that what it is, Grim? Thanks, man. I don't know why I had a mental block there. But anyway, long and short of it here, I think the algo signal fired off of this market structure level. And I even put sort of a quiz out for the site. Didn't get any responses back, though, so I was a little bit surprised at that. But just a hypothetical. If I wanted, let's say I had, and we just do this as a case scenario. If anybody wants to answer me later on, feel free. If I'm over on MEX, and let's say I've got 1 Bitcoin over on my MEX account, and of course you are a non-American, and I wanted to risk this range, and I wanted to strap on a 10x leverage position, and I'm actually thinking I like the idea at that 299 level, but for whatever it's worth, anywhere in this area. And I wanted to risk down to these lows, 270, 271.45. So let's say 271. And I wanted to risk on that trade 1% or 0.01 BTC of that MEX account. How many contracts do I put on over on that MEX platform? I've always been so insanely confused about all of this. If anybody can help old dinosaur Brian try and figure out what the math here is, I would be ever so grateful for your assistance here. And I wouldn't mind strapping this on just for illustration purposes. No opinion. I don't know what the fuck's going to happen here, but, you know, setup is setup is setup, and you just got to trade your setups and away you go. Somebody asked, you know, is it okay if the bot went past the 66%? You know, this is, we talked about this in the show yesterday. This is, to me, I'm okay with the fact that the tails went down into this area. Candle bodies didn't really close below that area. I'm okay, but you know, trading, and Tony, you're going to have to learn this. Trading is really more about an art form than a science. Could this trade not work? Sure. I mean, this thing could fail. I mean, trade is a trade. Could it would you attribute the failure to the fact that this thing went just beyond the 66%? Well, that's why the trade failed. I don't know. That's a tough one. It really is. What I would really like is the fact that you've got, nice pivot low, pivot low, pivot low, and we got 3 of them here. So that means that, if this thing does dump, where was the last time the bull said, okay, enough down, you go up, enough down, you go up, enough down, you go up. So these are the areas where if this thing does crap out, this is where the bull, if there are still bulls here, are going to step up and defend the trade. For me, I'm okay with this thing flirting with 66 here. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, if the trade fails, you can come back to me and say, well, the reason why the trade failed was because it went beyond 66, Brian. What are you doing, you stupid motherfucker? I mean, if you want to attribute that as the failure, that's fine. If you're like, you know what, I think I'm just going to, if it goes beyond 66, I'm just going to leave it alone. I'm just not going to touch it. And, Tony, if you want to paper trade this, let's see what happens. Only time will tell, as they say. It is I find it really interesting. And for a guy like me, the actual fact that the market jumped up here and is basically stopped, for me, that's actually a bullish sign. Because if this thing was so bearish, then on this pop, we would have seen the sellers come out and drive it back down. The fact that it came up, put in this W, and just has parked itself and just stopped, interestingly enough, for a guy like me, that actually is a relatively bullish sign. But we'll see what happens. That's just purely Brian's opinion. Long and short of it here is the trade setup is working, and right now it's just a big hurry up and do nothing on it. So we'll see what happens. I'd be curious. I've got both scenarios on here. We've got the outright bots, and this I think is a good example, where sometimes, one setup will just work away and the other setup just won't come in. This bot could very easily work up here and just leave the alligators in the dust. Sure, that could happen. So I've got both trade setups on the screen here, and we'll just see what happens. I have no idea. I'll go by the rules that I've been following lately. We want to try and book that 2-to-1, get yourself into sort of that quote-unquote risk-free trade as fast as possible. Sell half of the position, move stop to scratch on remaining. So we'll see how that works out. And then, of course, classic BOD levels, enter off the 25, move stop to scratch, move stop to trailing, ultimate target up here at 411. And like I said about 3 or 4 times, let's just see what happens. Just quick update on little ones that altcoins that we bought recently. This BTT just seems to be parked basically where we entered. And the Doge, it looks like it's giving me a little bit of heartburn here. Again, I have no idea if this is going to work. It's just a setup, no opinion. Just trade your setups. Away you go. I will risk to the lows here, so be fully prepared if this thing totally craps out and we break 24. Brian's going to say, oh, got stopped out. Next bus in 10 minutes. It's just the way it goes. All right, so that's basically I think I'm done. There's not really much else to say. Cole says here, because you're swapping through BTC, doesn't that make the position contingent on BTC? Absolutely. Excellent point, Cole. And this is half the reason why I really kind of don't like to trade versus Bitcoin. is because of you know, if Bitcoin goes face rip mode higher, if this thing's just staying stationary, then its price has to fall, eh? So excellent point, Cole. Cole basically says, shouldn't you be looking at this thing versus USD? And it'll be funny if we look at this thing versus USD and USD looks like crap. Let's see. Only time will tell. DOGE. Can we get a versus USD? Let's see what happens. Hey, there's one. Let's see what we got here. Oh, actually, this is interesting. So versus USD, actually, this thing is coming awfully long way. There was the last W down in there. So stepping in on the long side, we're buying sort of more higher time frame setup here. There is that big Binance breakout right there. So yeah, versus USD, I could actually see this come down a bit. In fact, actually, you can see a cheeky little gap right down in there, eh? So Cole, if you want to throw your stink bid in versus USD, you're probably best to be targeting down in that area. And if we do good old reload zones, what do you think the odds are that that probably is a reload zone? Yeah, looks like it's pretty close. Boom. Yep, basically 78.6, and that gap, that's not a bad place to be shooting for. So that's we're at 35 right now, and the trade's just working away. That could actually dip all the way down to 24 there. So just be aware of that, everybody. All right, let's see. We talked a little bit. I don't really see anything dramatic going on in the stock market this morning. We did talk a little bit about the overstock. Maybe we'll take a quick boo over there. US dollar index, we talked about this last week. We were wondering, you know, was this a Joby gap? Looks like that's fired. This also looks like a Joby gap. So if we break through this 97.44 area, that's probably suggesting that we want to rally up top. We've got this pretty well-defined market structure top here. And I suppose we could make the argument, you know, just simple little trend lines. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a move back up top into this. Yeah, this looks like this is going to be a major fight right up in here. We got mountain man level. We got this cute little down trend line. You got up trend lines going back from way back when. So don't be surprised if there's going to be a heck of a fight right up here around this 97 and change area. But, you know, it was interesting talking about yen gold there the other day. Come on. There we go. If I throw on yen gold, where are we here? I think the yen's broken down. Yeah, we talked about that on Friday. So you can see there is actually confirmation of that double top there. So, oh man, it makes it tough for gold bugs. It's hanging in here, but with this kind of pressure on the market, that's it's going to make it tough on gold. And sort of an aside to that, I've been watching the algo on crude oil recently, and crude, of course, put in this pretty well-defined W. And what I noticed, which kind of shocked me a little bit, was notice how this is a pretty big AB equals CD, suggesting we could easily see oil back up $65 a barrel. You can see we did have algonator signals fire off that double bottom. So little long ideas, I think, are working right now. So there's an old, you know, if you're not familiar with this, you know, it's not a bad idea to make a note of it. Usually when oil is rallying, it's very hard for gold to rally, and then vice versa. When oil is heading down, usually that's when you get your gold rallies. And I guess, you know, I did show a chart a couple of weeks ago of a really great correlation of that. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that Japan, of all the industrial nations in the world, Japan has literally no oil on their island. So that makes them extremely sensitive to energy prices. And quite often we see the yen and the Japanese economy in general, Japanese stock market actually underperform when you see oil face ripping higher. So we have the classic sort of scenario of if oil's going up, then gold has a hard time going up. And then we have yen-gold relationship. If yen is going down, then that puts pressure on gold. So I don't know, this is a daily chart of that crude. I don't know whether we have enough here to start calling bullish bots off of the dailies. A little bit of a fractal here, nice dip against these lows. Lower time frames, algos are starting to fire bull. This could, really take some more time to develop here. But, I guess the message I'm trying to convey to you guys is that if oil does start getting going in earnest, that's going to hit the yen. And then, of course, yen gold, that's going to make that pretty tough. What's interesting to see in the stock market, we've been musing about this massive cup and handle formation. But, on Friday's broadcast and, especially Thursdays with Julian and his options expiry report, we kind of mused at the fact that there was going to be a lot of call options that expired slightly in the money, which meant that Wall Street was going to have to sell retail because calls give the buyer the right to buy. So in essence, a whole bunch of those calls expired in the money. So that means CBOE automatically exercises those calls. And I think what's happening here is quite literally a whole bunch of people got noticed, late Friday over the weekend. Hey, you just bought the S&P 500 because your call just expired in the money. And they're all going, hit that goddamn bid, hit it, get out of there. So, it doesn't surprise me to see that there's going to be a bit of overhang on the market. So that's sort of the internal mechanism commentary about the stock market. Now, I don't know whether you guys have been watching the rags, and I don't really, especially on the Sunday report, I don't want to make any political comments, because that's just going to get me in hot water with all of the Make America Great Again people. But Mr. Trump, he is in some serious hot water here with his buddy. I don't know whether you guys saw this. I think I've told you guys this before. It's very, very difficult to knock out an incumbent president. Really any politician. Like in Canada, prime minister. In the United States, you have president who runs the executive branch. It's extremely difficult to knock out an incumbent. The only way that you can knock out an incumbent is either one, the economy is crappy, and people are losing their jobs and they're not worrying about how they're going to pay the rent and mortgages and stuff like that. And they're like, okay, well, this last guy didn't do so hot. Let's maybe consider a different guy. But if the economy is okay, then really that's not really a problem. But there is another way that an incumbent can get knocked out, and that is scandal. And I won't go into too much detail. In fact, I've even tried to refrain from commenting at all on Twitter or anything like that. But Mr. Trump, one of his close associates, has been charged and indicted and all that kind of stuff on child sexual stuff. I mean, I'll just leave it at that. You guys take from it what you will. But the question ultimately is going to be, Jesus, man, they just keep coming here. Okay, I have 2 free articles. Well, fuck you. I don't need any of your shit. I mean, these articles are all over the place. So you don't know how closely this is going to be tied to Mr. Trump. There was an interesting article, and as I'm sure all of you probably remember, and Jonas is reminding me, he was also very closely tied with the Clinton administration, and I think this is actually part of that sort of, the Clintons were sort of wrapped up in sexual scandals, but they were able to dodge all of it because of their sort of political strong arming. But the one point that I got out of this, which actually shocked me, was the labor secretary for Trump. This is where things get really interesting, because they basically went to the Florida courts and they got a plea deal for, like, underage misconduct or something along those lines. And according to U.S. law, if I understand this correctly, you actually have to notify the victims that there's going to be this plea deal done so that they can go, hey, wait, and they never did that. It was all swept under the carpet. And I think this is what actually Mr. Trump could actually be in big trouble for, is that his labor secretary is in hot water right now because of that plea deal. So I don't know whether Mr. Trump himself is tied in with these allegations of underage sex stuff, but his labor secretary is definitely in hot water about the plea deal that they did. I would highly recommend that you just read this. And, as people have pointed out, the Clintons were just as wrapped up in this guy as anybody else. But what I find fascinating, like I said, is that his labor secretary is caught up in it. And these kind of things, especially when it comes to sex, man, they just have a way of not going away. And of course, underage, this guy, Alex Acosta. So that's the guy we probably should keep an eye on and see how this turns out for him. But this once again, Mr. Trump's back in the hot seat, and nothing derails a president faster than sexual scandals. And we all remember Mr. Clinton, right? I did not have sex with that girl in the White House. And how do you explain the stains on her dress, sir? Anyway, crazy world we live in. So, to a certain degree, where am I going with all this? We have to ask ourselves how much of the stock market euphoria was based on, it looks like Mr. Trump's just going to walk right back into the White House, versus, now we've got sort of a cloud hanging over the market from this political scandal. So we'll see what happens. Only time will tell. Just as Julian sort of likes to say, I wouldn't be surprised if there is, there's already a plan in place. Goldman Sachs, Merrill Lynch, Bank of America, all those guys, right? And we get this down day. We get this down market. All the people, of course, that bought the calls, all those calls expired in the money. So they're motivated sellers. And they were looking for a reason to knock the market down. And lo and behold, we can now pin the reason on things like sexual scandals. So who knows? Tough to say. On the short term, just daily chart conversations. I think is this a cup and handle? We'll know that this is a cup and handle if we can come back down to this gap, hold the gap, and then turn back up. It is interesting to see how this is actually carved out. And is that a new high, 306? Oh, it's exactly the same high. So 306 was obviously an important level for the S&P guys. I don't know whether we can call that a fractal if those are exactly the same levels. We might have to change that to like a 2-day chart. All right, so there you can actually see the potential fractal. So all today is just potentially that third day. We're going to have to actually see the market go through today's lows tomorrow to actually see whether this thing's actually going to fire or not. So we'll see how this goes. We'll keep our eyes peeled. We can see the big old hole on the charts, and anybody who's taken our education program, we're going to know exactly where support should be on this. And you can kind of see the volume profile shelf here. My hunch is this is going to take some time to develop and break down. If it's going to break down, and that's in the face of this massive potential cup and handle. If this thing catches and we actually see some acceptance above value, Colleen, how do you see? And actually, this might be a good example. Let's see if we can put the developing value on here. There we go. So if we can see, I know this might be tough to see with this color. Let's change it to yellow. There we go. If we can, you can see how the market tried to break above value. We'd really love to see the market come back, kiss value high, and then accept above value. And if it does, remember we showed you that Bitcoin chart from before, look out, right? This thing could just ratchet up here. And AB equals CDs. Interesting how that level lines up nicely with 1.618. That's actually like a alt AB equals CD pattern. And to all intents and purposes, we are now through that sell in May and walk away. June actually turned out to be a heck of a lot stronger than even I was expecting. And we're now through that seasonality. There's supposed to be one more dip according to the seasonality people. If Adam's around, maybe he can share with us a chart from his subscription service that he has. Maybe Adam, if you're watching this later on, or Andrew or Reza or anything, if you can grab a chart from Adam, maybe we can show in a daily brief coming up. But there's supposed to be some sort of cycle pivot. The dates seem to change. When we started the conversation, it was like mid-July. Now I'm hearing it's like sort of the 19th of July, something like that. And then also, too, we've got Mr. Mueller's testimony in front of U.S. Congress about the Mueller investigation, also scheduled for that event. So, maybe what we see is a little bit of a pullback, fill the gaps, test this key breakout low, test value high. If everything goes sort of tickety-boo, we're still getting relatively strong data coming out on the U.S. econs, then this thing will hold value high, and we get ready for basically the mid to end of summer stock market rally. And interestingly enough, kind of going back to crypto for a moment, we've been musing about whether crypto could actually enjoy some sort of seasonal rally window here. We've been wondering, Haman and Han, are the altcoins going to have their season? We kind of talked a little bit yesterday about how potential W's were coming in on things like we were looking at Monero yesterday. It was jumping up. Of course, ETH put in that bullish buy setup, and is this potentially sort of the start of our altcoin summer? I think we also mused too that I think the altcoins do the best when Bitcoin is range bound. So I might even argue that's probably the best for us, that Bitcoin just stay in this trading range. If you're an altcoin enthusiast and you'd like to see altcoins do well here through the summer. If Bitcoin starts face ripping up, then I think that our altcoin sort of conversation is on pause. Where the heck did it go? The altcoin counter trend rally. But on balance, I'm feeling like the stage is set for a half decent little altcoin rally. So let's see how we do. And if anything, ironically enough, I'd actually prefer that Bitcoin just sort of park itself in this trading range and don't really move a hell of a lot so that the altcoins can catch a bid here. We will see how that goes. Of course, Trex is still up to their games. With regard to the Schult coins, the crap, I think that they still have to work through Bittrex delistings, and we have to get to the point where they're done and they're like, okay, books are clean. They go back to the U.S. regulators. Can we please have our FinViz or whatever the hell it is license that they need to get to be able to run business in the U.S.? If they do approve them at that point, then I think the Schult coin winter is done. But it's not done yet. So if I understand correctly, this coming weekend, there's a whole new wave of delistings that are coming. And then if I also am not mistaken, there's another wave of delistings following that. Just FYI for the audience. And actually, I think, what time is it? Yeah, I guess we got enough time here. I put together just a quick matrix of these current messes. Where is it? It's one of these ones. This is this list. And you can see, obviously, these guys are just not enjoying any kind of bids. The ones that I could either move off of Trex, I could. Ones that actually had a little bit of equity in them, I liquidated. But a lot of these coins, they represent just ridiculously small fractional positions for me right now. So I think probably it's not, we're basically just going to ride these, 0.003, 0.003, 0.004, 0.001 into the ground. Sucks. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Welcome to venture capital. So just an FYI there, full disclosure, I'm going to take a punch in the nose on these just like everybody else. All right. So there's anything else I really wanted to review with you here today. We talked a little bit about broader stock market. We talked a little bit about US dollar. Suppose, for the Europeans in the audience, your European currencies. I thought I had one that had the British pound on here as well. But European currency is still weak. Actually, I'm a little surprised, frankly speaking, that gold is as strong as it is, because we've got both the Japanese yen and the euro. And actually, did we make new lows here? 112.71, 112.70. Yep. So both the yen and the euro made new lows. U.S. dollar index is pressing up against its highs. Actually, I'm a bit surprised gold has hung in here as well as it has. Stocks are, trying. Actually, that's interesting because it looks like the NASDAQ here has topped. Was that a new high? 06? 09. Okay, so Friday was a new high there on NASDAQ. So again, same sort of thing. We won't actually get a quote-unquote fractal top sell signal until whatever today's low is broken. If anything, if you're a bull, what you'd prefer to see is the market come down, fill in the gap, and a great orgy of selling here through the day, and then paint a nice little inside bar tomorrow and set the stage for further rallies. We had sort of talked recently about semiconductor stocks and how they were looking pretty heavy here. With Samsung. Samsung announced that they were going to take some pretty big losses. And so as a result, the stocks really are not participating as much. Yeah, so the stocks already actually broke down. And technically, the stocks are supposed to be the ultimate leading indicator in the market. For the stock market, that is. So, looking at this, I think we have to temper our enthusiasm for the stock market anyway. Yeah. Suppose we could probably take a quick boo. Let's go look at those interest rates before we finish off today. Let's see. Where should we go here? We'll take a look at good old yield curve. Let's see what she's looking like. Do we have signs of imminent? Interesting. So no inversion just yet. 2s, 5s, and 10s are all inverted relative to short. Of course, we want to see these long rates get below short. It's interesting how short-term interest rates are actually ratcheting back up here. And keep in mind, the Fed funds rate is technically 2.25%. So these Fed funds are actually, the futures are racing up to actually meet what the Fed funds is right now. And when I was sort of reading all the rags and stuff, what I was sort of hearing was that the market actually is getting ready for basically no change in rates. We'll see how that goes. If we see all these continue to M out and continue to work their way back down to the actual Fed funds rate, then that means the punch bowl has been basically no rate cuts. The punch bowl has been taken away. And so right now, what are we talking about here? We're talking the Fed Fund future sitting 97.87 and the actual rate 97.75. So we're only talking like 12 beeps. So don't be shocked, and I think I even put out some other people were talking in the market, and I just sort of went nods, right? Because I agree with the guy. Let's see, where did I put that? This guy here, he's saying 172,000 per month thus far this year, compared with an average monthly gain of 223,000 in 2008. So actually, that's a little bit low. The jobs report came out 224,000, so we're back into sort of healthy economy mode. And this guy just says, surely you can't cut interest rates with stocks at record highs and 200,000 plus prints and payrolls. This seems to be a very unpopular view in the market. But man, I'm going to say the same thing as I said before. I just can't see them cutting interest rates in the face of stocks basically at all-time highs, and the econs coming out okay. And keep in mind, the Fed, the Fed's not going to be watching the front end of the econs, right? They're not going to be watching things like leading indicators. They're not going to be watching even really PMIs to that much. They're going to be watching the employment. That's their biggest sort of key. In their mandate, they even say that we're supposed to maximize growth and maximize employment. And so that literally puts them at the back end of the curve, and they always go too far, right? And then the stock market breaks, and then they have to play catch up. So I don't think that they actually can start cutting rates in earnest unless the stock market really breaks in earnest. And I just don't see that yet. Sorry. Okay. Anything else I wanted to talk about? Actually, kind of a fun story we'll end off on. I've already got a free position established on this, so I'm not really in any hurry to do anything here at all. Actually, we probably shouldn't put it there. I'm going to mess everything up. Let's, where is my stock chart? Over here. So to continuing the theme on the alternative fuel play, these are the warrants on Blink Energy. BLNK, I think it is. Blink Charging, beg your pardon. There is the stock. I was actually pretty pleased to see that some people on TRI were botting this up and having fun trading it. 33%, no more than 66. Don't know whether, it looks to me like she's still trying to turn the corner here off the higher time frames. Like if I go there to there, right? And actually, this is a really good example of our LJ, right? So 1, 2, 3, break the trend line, give me market structure on the other side of the trend line. So that's looking pretty interesting here. And then I did notice that if we go down to lower time frames, I think I saw some people posting in the lounge. Mind you, this looks pretty sloppy. But some people were posting bots in the lounge. I'm not quite sure how they were trading this. Need to go and find that chart for you guys. Maybe I'll do this for tomorrow. But, there was a W that did come in there. I don't know whether we have 3 solid lows to work with. But, congratulations to anybody who did take this setup. Move stop to scratch, level hit. So worst case scenario, they fill the gap and you just walk away at scratch. But, this the trade that I really like here, which I'm most interested in, like I said before, I already have a free position, so I'm not really in any big hurry. But this is like a 2023 call option, those people that are interested in the derivatives markets. This is what's called a warrant, which basically gives you the right to buy stock. And if I'm not mistaken, I think the strike price is like, I think it's $2, but I'm not totally certain. But basically, you can buy this as a proxy on owning the stock on the cheap, right? It's only 60 cents. And it was really interesting to see it come right back down into good old reload zones and fill in gaps. Right? So there's your reload zone. There's some juicy gaps that have been filled in, and it looks like he's getting ready to turn. So anybody who's interested in trying to get in on sort of alternative fuel stocks as a way, you know, and you could even argue that this is like a poor man's way to play Tesla and alternative fuels. So keep this on your radar screen. I think it's a really interesting little idea. I suppose, you know, if we start seeing, I don't know. Can you guys see the bullish divergence here in MACD? So you can see stocks working its way down, but MACD is actually Wing out. So that's encouraging. And I don't know whether we can do this or not. Let's see. I hate when I do this. All right. Well, we'll go like that. I'll go like that. Move that there. You can see that buyers are stepping up on this thing here. It's not exactly a Davo per se, but we do have nice uppy momentum here. So, you know, it is a poor man's way in the stock market to play those alternative fuel stocks. Keep that in mind. I was really interested earlier this morning. David's Tea. One of these days, this son of a bitch is going to break out here. But they did perk it up here this morning. It looks like it's parked back in the range. And I did notice somebody posted in the lounge that some of these pot stocks are actually taking a bit of a hit here this morning. All right. I think that I'm basically done my rant. I don't think there's a heck of a lot else I wanted to talk to you guys about. Some up, some down. Jesus, this crazy NIO just keeps going. Is it going to make another new high here? Look at that. Yeah, it did. Son of a gun. So, you know, get out there and hunt those W's. Right? Play from a position of strength. Build your trading plan. Right? In this case, I was really lucky. I snuck in off of this cute little fractal in the reload zone. Nice little Davos there off of that level as well. And 334 was the high. 335 is the high today. Woohoo! New highs. Yay. So, you know, just get out there and have some fun. In fact, actually, I was even posting out tweets and stuff this morning to the effect that half of my job as a stock guy is to try and get into winning trades and then just don't get in the way of it, right? Once you got your free position on, just let it run. And there's overstock, you know, like sort of a commentary on crypto. I actually think that this actually is good for crypto, right? If we see the stocks in the space are moving higher, then that means that the stock market people, because remember that stocks always lead the commodities. So I don't know whether this, you know, we can actually make a direct correlation with overstock and crypto, but it is good to see that these things are still relatively strong here. So, and I got a feeling that once we get into sort of that summer, late, you know, midsummer, late summer, seasonally friendly time of year, usually like mid-August, CNBC's all having just a blast. All the pros, of course, are in the Hamptons, and it's sort of a silly time of year, but we often get some really insane stock movement. And I got a funny feeling this guy's going to be one of the all-stars through that sort of seasonal window. So keep your eyes peeled here, folks. Okay, I think I'm done. That is the top of the hour. What do you think, Mr. Mayor? Did I do a half-decent job here on my own today?
Yes, sir, like always.
Yeah. Did anybody get any value out of this? I know Alex is slightly biased, so but okay, Cole says he's feeling good. All right, good. Nice to see you again, Axel. Always worried about whether new people that came into that crypto market in the 2017 bull were going to make it and survive. So it's good to see that you survived. And I don't know whether you remember. I remember specifically sitting at that vegan restaurant in Berlin there with you guys last summer. And I said, your absolute number one job here is to survive and to make sure that you get through this very normal, healthy correction that has to happen in this space. You know, you never know. The market could have just face ripped higher. You just don't know in this game. But, you know, what I was really worried about was, you know, people FOMOing, going all in, and just getting crushed. That's that BitConnect kind of nonsense. So good to see that you made it, Axel, and just hang in there, slow and steady. And if you're long and you're a little old lady, well, you're just sitting on a bunch of positions, just waiting for the market to turn. And, as we've seen through all the sort of crypto, one by one, they're slowly working their way back up, climbing the wall of worry. And interestingly enough, for crypto, I think you actually have to have Bitcoin climb the wall of worry first. And then we start, and then it sort of goes sideways, and then all these altcoins can start performing again as well. So keep your eyes peeled. And like I said, good to see that you survived, Axel. I literally think about you on a daily basis. Okay, why don't we leave it at that? Have yourselves a great day, everybody. We're trying to figure out what's going on with YouTube. It's really interesting. Grim said that they're changing the platform where you could potentially have 100 people in these Hangouts. So we might all just actually be in the Hangout together, but I don't know. We'll see how that goes, but definitely want to touch base with Grim to try and figure out what he's up to here. All right, guys, all the best, and bye for now.